my god.
So hello and welcome back to my channel. You should always do as I say and not as I do. So you're young, you're in love, think y'all should live together. And as someone who has lived with a multitude of, not like a multitude, I mean, I've lived with a dude once or twice. So I'm going to share with you some of the wisdom, some of the tips, some of the things that I have learned. So the first thing, which I think is the biggest thing and kind of summarizes all the things, is to be conscious of not turning someone into the manager of the house. Y'all are a partnership. You are two consenting grown adults. So it's a little unfair to turn one person into ultimately the gatekeeper to all the household things. Now, before you get your little angry typing fingers ready, keep in mind, not every single one of these things are going to directly apply to you and your situation. I have friends who their whole job is to be a stay-at-home parent, and they are in charge of the household that is a part of a thing that them and their partner have worked out great. But I also think that there's plenty of other people, me included, both members go to work and come home and spend a mutual amount of time making the place gross. So it is in both of their best interests to equally divide things. But while that sounds great on paper, there's usually one person who's going to be a little bit cleaner, a little more bossy, a little more specific. And because of that natural thing inside of them, no matter what degree it's at, they are more likely to take on more things without the other person even knowing, which then can lead to resentment, which half the time the other person doesn't even notice or realize what they've done wrong. So if you two can come together, and yes, that sounds corny, but boo, if you are trying to make this work, you better learn to speak. Because like, for example, Ira doesn't drive. He lives in a city. He doesn't have a license. He doesn't have a car. He doesn't even know how to do it. I tried to convince him to do a video of me teaching him how to drive, and he said no. But because of that, a lot of the time I end up getting the groceries. He also doesn't know how to cook. I mean like nothing at all. I truly don't understand how he's lived this long. So that's another thing that I do most of the cooking. And so if I'm also, because I'm a little more clean, I'm the one cleaning, I end up feeling like, oh my God, I'm doing everything. So I literally just had to sit this man down and be like, hey, these are things that I do that because you have never in your life done them, I don't think that you really realize that I am even doing them, and that's costing me time that you just never have to think about. Like, you come home and there's magically just food. How do you think that happens? So it can be helpful sometimes. We didn't go this extreme, but it can be helpful to just literally come up with a list of every single thing that each one of you do and figure out ways that you can both make each other's lives easier, take some of the pressure off, start doing more things. And I think also it helps kind of open up the other person's eyes sometimes to be like, oh, I just didn't know that all this stuff happened. Or I don't necessarily advise this. Another option is just hiding things. Like, for example, a wonderful man that I happen to date has a very poor habit of leaving almond butter containers out. Why? Because he's a good person and wants to recycle it, but he's also a lazy little shit sometimes and just leaves the jar on the counter. Like, what do you think? You think there's a magic fairy? Just picks this up? What do you think is gonna happen with this jar? So I hide the new jar, and until I receive a photo of the old jar cleaned out and in the recycling or in the trash and you accepting that you're a bad person, well, either way, man, this is on you. I'm not telling you where the almond butter is. Relationships, they're beautiful. Anyway, another thing that's important to recognize is fair does not necessarily always mean equal. Now, as a person who has more specific needs, more specific ways of doing things, I have to understand I'm psychotic. Not everybody is gonna be here. That's fine. And that's just a good life skill to know all around. Ira has made such leaps, such bounds since we've started dating. He was once useless. Now he has a handful of skills. But there are also things that I have just accepted, like cleaning the bathroom. He's never gonna do it right. And the reason why is because I have a much higher standard and a strict way of doing things that I could potentially pass on to a child. I can't get into that man. And if you were to take a step back and realize like, hey, we're arguing about a toilet bowl, you might think that's a little stupid. Like, there's definitely a difference between getting walked all over and like someone destroying the person that you are. Don't let them do that. I will come for them. I am king of the toilet brush now. That's just my life. But I hate having to get up at 11 o'clock at night knowing that my dog needs to be walked and I am tired and just want to sleep. Ira does those things for me. Like, technically, I don't think walking the dog takes nearly as much time or is as hard as, say, scrubbing down a whole bathroom. But when I'm really tired and laying there and it's late, It's worth it, man. I will clean that bathroom all day versus getting up. So back to my original point is, while those are not technically swappable, in my book they kind of are, and that's what works for us. Another example is when it comes to financial stuff. That is such a personal, like, between the two of you kind of thing that I'm not here to tell you about your finances. For some people, like myself and what's his nuts, we do just split everything down the middle. It's not worth it to me to figure out like you spent this much and I did this and we ate these things differently. It's like, whatever, we're just gonna split it. We both live here, it'll be fine. And that's something that works for us. I also know other people who like to make weird, like, this is like, I love a good spreadsheet, but this is too much for me. But if it works for you, great. Who have to itemize every single thing and split it up like that. And that's how you guys work, then that's all that matters. I also know other people who, back to the whole like equals not always fair, whatever the crap I just said. If you're making a lot more money than your partner, you could say like, yeah, I want to split everything down the middle. That seems fair, that seems fine, and you're both for it. But if one of you is making a lot more money, there's a good chance that you also want to spend a lot more money. And if you're splitting everything down the middle, that can be bringing this person, like, they don't have that kind of money to match you with, if that makes sense. So in that case, I also know people who just do equal amounts of percentages. So I make X amount, we're doing 50% of that goes to bills. You make a lesser amount, but we're still doing 50%. And then it's like, you're both offering equal amounts, even if it's not exact. But when you're doing this, which kind of brings me to what was gonna be point 5, but I'm just gonna bring it in right now as point 3. I highly suggest, before you live with someone else, live alone, live by yourself. If you live with roommates, doesn't count in my book. That's great, it's close. But if you're gonna live with someone with the intention, this is not always everybody's intention, but if you're living with someone with the intention of like, we're gonna get married, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with you kind of a thing, you are literally saying you're gonna spend the rest of your life with this person. If you have never lived by yourself, once you get married, like, you never have that chance again. I know it sounds great to like, and it is. I love waking up next to this idiot every single day. I appreciate it every morning. I am grateful for him, but I also am really grateful for my experience living by myself. And you know, everybody's different. It's not always along, like, I understand financially, you're like, I can't afford it, I'm gonna die. But if you can swing it, when you live by yourself, that teaches you things like, I know I'm a little more nuts. You may learn that you are nuts in a completely different way, but it's important to know that and also know the person that you are so that you don't end up completely succumbing to like someone else's way of living just to please them, which is a thing that I think just happens a lot in relationships if you're not sure of the person that you are. It's not just like living together. If you don't know who you are, sometimes you just become your significant other, and sometimes they suck. And then you suck, and nobody wants that. Even if you're not going to, just be sure that you are not overpowering someone else, and also that you are not letting someone overpower you. Oh, man. Like, everybody's gonna grow, everybody's gonna compromise, that's how the world works. But there are a few ways that you can kind of help make that a little easier. One of which, this might be a no-brainer to you, but something that I have found really helps Ira and I living together is a shared note. So on your phone, or at least iPhones, all you have to do is you create a new note. You write something cool like butt face. There is this little add person here, which lets you add people. Wow. Again, not rocket science, but it's very convenient for things like groceries. You can see one clear list of everything. You can add things or delete things. Another thing that it's helpful for is for gifts. If you have a birthday or a holiday, or you're just feeling nice and spicy, we have a mutual list for gifts to buy each other. So it's just like, anytime you see something that you're like, oh, I want this, you can do varying prices. You just add it, little links onto this list. Then the person doesn't have to ask you, but you know you're getting something that you want. Efficiency, people, efficiency. And the last thing that I find is really helpful is to just do things together. When you go from just like dating and living in separate homes, you kind of, there's more of, especially earlier on in a relationship, there's more of a desire to constantly be together and conglomerated and gross. When you live together, because you see that person, I think it's easier, like, I don't know, it kind of depends on the relationship, and I also kind of think it's a sign, like if you still want to hang out with each other, that's a very promising sign. But regardless of either way that you naturally lean, just as like the people that you are. I think it's important to make intentional time to spend together when you live together. This could be like hanging out. I personally thought that this is a smaller space. I mean, it's a big space for me, but for two people, this is arguably a smaller space, but I actually find that I prefer it because it keeps us in the same room. And we've talked about it and neither one of us has ever had an issue with it because we both have spaces that we can go and be separate if we need. But I think that the closeness kind of helps your relationship a lot of the time. Like I remember reading a study once like about money, but basically she intentionally downsized from a house to an apartment, but she had like her husband, and like 2 kids and a dog, and they got this much smaller space. Her kids had to share a room and they never fought about it. Like they never, like their fighting pretty much stopped, and they actually grew closer, and like her and her kids grew closer, and everybody kind of did because you kind of had to, because you were up in each other's business. So I'm not saying like you should move out of your house immediately and get a tiny one, but I think it's important to find quality time together. It doesn't always mean that you have to be doing something. Sometimes Ira's just sitting in the living room working while I'm cooking dinner and like watching a crappy TV show, but it's still kind of nice. You can like talk about it loosely, or you can go over wherever. Or if it feels like we've both been really busy, we will do something stupid. Like we'll just do something like play video games together. Still like as mindless as TV, but requires a little bit more engagement than just watching a movie. And this works for other things too, like cleaning. My God, I, naive little me, thought you're a grown adult functioning man. If we both decided like our list of chores and I do mine separately because we have different schedules, you'll also fit yours into your schedule, right? If I do that, if I just leave Ira to his own device of like, hey, could you please do this? He truly, honestly, he's a nice, good person. He truly believes he will do it. He'll be like, yep, I'll get it done tomorrow. But he will also tell me I'll get it done tomorrow for 3 weeks. Like, oh.
Does not compute.
What I've found is by doing it together, we each hold each other accountable. This does require, again, some communication of like, hey, when in your schedule can we make this happen? Which works so much better. So yeah, I hope this helped. If you are single, thank you for watching this, and also enjoy it while you can. Go say something nice to your partner or yourself. Ooh. Open your door because it's like 100 degrees in here, and have a nice day. Bye, thank you for watching. I'm gonna melt. Do you like living with me?
Sure.
That sounded fake.
It's very real.
Consider this an invitation to my gangster name.